Hey, good morning. This is Julie Weissman coming to you from the Nishma offices in Jerusalem. And I have the great pleasure today of interviewing one of our incredible alumni, Yael de Toledo, who is currently in Abu Dhabi and just started a position as the Rabbinite of the Moses ben Maimon Synagogue in the Abrahamic Family House. And I really look forward to the opportunity to hear more about it. Good morning, Yael.
Morning. It is such an honor and really my pleasure to be here and to be speaking with you today, and just to be back, could say, in the Beit Midrash. It's really nice to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm thrilled to see you again. And I want to ask you to tell us a bit about yourself, your husband, your background, and how did you end up in Abu Dhabi?
Of course. Okay, so to start off, my husband and I came to Abu Dhabi. Previously, we were living in Jerusalem, in Nachlaot, and we made Aliyah officially in early 2022, but had been back and forth for our studies from about 2019. Ben, my husband, is a Talmid of Yeshivat Machanaim Kollel Strauss, and I am primarily a Talmidah of Nishmat. And we both come from diverse religious backgrounds. So therefore, I think that made us uniquely suited to understand the diversity and the intricacies of the types of people who find themselves in a place like that, and therefore, hopefully, well suited for this job. And so prior to Limud and life in Eretz Israel, Ben and I both grew up in America. I grew up very spiritually inspired in Michigan, and where there I experienced a pluralism of religious backgrounds and institutions for my upbringing. My most formative youth experiences were in my youth group and in Jewish summer camp. When I was in college, I spent 5 months away from the University of Michigan, where I was a student, and I participated on a fellowship called the Nachshon Project that was based out of Hebrew University in Jerusalem. During that semester, we met all sorts of leaders from across the religious spectrum, different Jewish worlds, rabbis, rabbinites, organization heads, artists, politicians. We studied history and we studied modern trends in understanding where Judaism has been and where it's going, and ultimately considered those implications in the modern day. I previously visited Israel and Taglit a few months prior, so I wanted to get myself back as soon as I could. And so that's how I found myself on that program. And once I found myself back there, I was completely captivated in the life of Israel. I started thinking that this could really be a place for me to live. And I also started understanding how some of these trends fit into the reality that actually sort of culminated to be part of my life. And in a longer story, to make it a little bit shorter, I decided to steer my ship towards Israel, where I would then live and continue to deepen in my studies. One thing that I noticed was that I felt that I was completely lacking in a deep Torah background. So one of my immediate priorities was to put myself in the Beit Midrash, even though I was already after university, and really deepen in my studies. That is something I'll touch a bit on later. I think that's it was a hurdle to overcome. And I think it was also one of the most important and formative things that I did in my own life. So that's basically my story of my background. Ben comes also from a pluralism of Jewish experiences in his background, and similarly found himself on a path like the one that I laid out for myself. But he knew his entire life that he wanted to be a rabbi. And so as his life took different shapes, that sort of continued to reflect in his expression, but all along he was going on a rabbinical journey himself. And so just really to nail the point home, how do we find ourselves then in Abu Dhabi? So when we were living in Jerusalem, we received a call from Chief Rabbi Yehuda Sarna. Rabbi Sarna is really just such a brilliant, and now I can say amazing mentor. he comes from the world of Hillel. He comes from the world of NYU. He comes from a yeshiva university background, but has really the broadest shoulders to understand complexities of the Jewish world, and has it as a personal mission for him to make Judaism maximally inclusive. And so to be able, so basically we were living in Jerusalem and we were going about our lives, studying, working. One day we happened to come into contact with a mutual colleague connection, and they said, we have an amazing job. You seem like the right people for it. Could we connect you with Rabbi Sarno? Ben and I said, sure. We're not really thinking about leaving. We just planted our seeds here, or we just planted ourselves here, but let's, but we're happy to have that conversation. It sounds like, there's something interesting there to be discussed. And we get a message from Rabbi Sarna, and it says, call me immediately. Can't discuss over email. And so, we joke, you don't get a lot of emails like that when you're studying and you're kind of a person of the Beit Midrash. You're not necessarily picking up that email. You're not necessarily getting an email with that subject line all the time. Anyway, so we got on the phone with Rabbi Sarna, and he proceeded to explain to us about this amazing new synagogue project that was building in Abu Dhabi. Explain a little bit more specifically what this is, maybe in a follow-up question, but he basically said, I think that you're kind of looking at the opportunity of a lifetime. It's really an amazing, a really amazing place to be. And also, I can't tell you exactly what to expect. We said, what, this sounds like something really interesting. We'd love to be a part of it. And so very quickly from there, we kind of onboarded to the system and more or less moved ourselves here in a short time. And since then, we've been serving as the rabbi and rabbinate in residence at the Moses Ben Maimon Synagogue at the Abrahamic Family House. And it's a huge, huge honor.
So can you tell us a little bit more about what the synagogue is, and what are you hoping to accomplish as the rabbinate and in the future?
Yes, of course. So the Moses Ben Maimon Synagogue is a synagogue. It's the first, here, I'll restart the question. The Moses Ben Maimon Synagogue is the first purpose-built synagogue in this region in nearly 100 years. It exists, yes, as a standalone synagogue. We have an amazing local community. It captures the attention and imagination of a lot of Jewish visitors from all over the world and non-Jewish visitors. And the reason for that is because it also exists within a complex where there's a mosque and a church, and then the synagogue. So we are part of this amazing monotheistic faith site where so we're here in Abu Dhabi. This is built in what is emerging as the cultural district of Abu Dhabi on Saadiyat Island. And it is really a space for creating mutual understanding, for creating space for dialogue, and really helping to ask questions and grow and understand our fellow monotheistic faiths better. So on a regular basis, we're interacting with people who have sometimes never met Jewish people in their life. Sometimes they're professors and they know all about Jewish people and they're so excited to interact. And then, of course, we have the local Jewish population, who is an amazing group that really spans the religious spectrum and is a vibrant, growing local community. And we're really here to serve all sides of that. So I would say our main goal is that there's one physical synagogue in the UAE, and that's this synagogue. And it's really, really a bracha. The mandate of this synagogue is to be a synagogue that is inclusive to all Jews, to be a Jewish synagogue. Now, if you're hearing that thinking, well, I don't think I've seen a lot of synagogues like that before, that's correct. There aren't a lot of synagogues that are like that in the world. Often a synagogue leans towards one hashkafa, one worldview. This synagogue is uniquely situated to be a place where all Jewish people can come and feel welcome, and that's actually our goal. It's not necessarily simple or straightforward, but we do the best we can to really navigate that. And I would say that that vision is really in line and core to who I am, who Ben is, and really what we're trying to bring to the table. Certainly Rabbi Sarna as well is trying to make a Judaism that's accessible, a place for education, a place where we can learn. So in practice, this is a dati synagogue, meaning we sit with mechitza, we have this is a formal Orthodox, this is really an Orthodox, modern Orthodox synagogue, but we really make an effort to make a maximally inclusive space for questions, friendly, and because so many people who are coming here are really looking to grow and are growing in their Judaism, and so that's what we try to offer. I would say as a personal mission, that's my biggest goal, is to make Judaism accessible. I would say my biggest goal is to build bridges within Judaism. I often think about how the Jewish people have so much that's in common that unites us, and oftentimes though we spend time thinking about what differentiates us, and we're not finding places for those bonds. So my personal mission is to build bridges within Judaism. And I think this opportunity has given us sort of a pilot chance at intra-faith, meaning we're part of an interfaith complex here. But what we really are doing as the one built synagogue in this area, in this country, is an opportunity for intra-faith. We need to work together. So that's my goal here. I would say one other, well, maybe I'll talk about the title Rabbanit, but I can maybe save that for later. I think that's potentially of interest to a Nishmat audience.
Okay. I have to say that from our interactions when you were here in Jerusalem, I really feel like this position is so perfectly suited to you. I mean, I literally, when I think about conversations I had with you, my visual that comes to mind is like holding hands. Like, I feel like this concept of getting Jews to like hold hands and build bridges is really like your personal MO. So it's incredible to see that you found such a strategic position to bring that out to the world with your husband.
That's very kind of you to say. And I would say really this position just found us. It was in some ways like the dream that we never could have dreamed of ourselves. But thank you. That's very kind of you. And that's certainly what we try to do here is, have every person who's walking into the synagogue. I would say on an almost daily basis, you have people coming in who are experiencing their Judaism in a way that they never have before, because suddenly you're in the Arabian Peninsula. People aren't expecting this necessarily to be a vibrant Jewish place. You have, Jews coming from all over the world on a daily basis. I would say we have people who come in and they just really start to cry because they walk in, and this synagogue, I wish you were sitting here. Like we're actually in my apartment right now, but we live right outside the synagogue. It's like right, I could throw a rock and it's right here. But it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's really grand. It just has light, and you feel like it's sort of this elevating architecture that was on purpose. That the architect, Sir David Adjaye, designed it, that it would sort of have this transcendent feel inside. But people come in and they have their breath taken away because they feel like, wow, I never would have believed, people are always saying, in my lifetime, I never would have believed in my lifetime that we'd be in the Arabian Peninsula, in a synagogue that's this beautiful and has such a feeling of kavod when you walk in. You feel like, wow, I'm proud of my Judaism to be in a synagogue like this. And so if people that probably would not on their own volition come within, some substantial distance of a synagogue back home, and they feel like they come here and it just awakens something within people. So it's very, it's really our privilege to facilitate that. And that's we're hardly doing anything. We're just here, but for people to come and feel that and participate in that and just sort of walk through people's experience, it's really a privilege.
And you are facilitating it, and you're making every person who walks through that door feel welcome and become part of that community. So, kol hakavod to you, and I hope that you have many, many opportunities for years to come to continue to grow the community there. Tell us a little bit about your experience here in Jerusalem at Nishmat, and what do you take with you from Nishmat and your experience here into this position?
So Nishmat was very, very impactful for me. I found Nishmat when I was actually a student in the summer program, and I really was compelled to continue and try to figure out how I could join the Beit Midrash on a more permanent basis afterwards, because Nishmat combines such an amazing honesty to Torah and integrity towards women that it just fits so right for me. And I would say that was the first time that I'd seen an archetype really with that depth of honesty in both directions that really inspired me. And so I was very fortunate to learn with some amazing teachers there, including especially from Rav Sperling, from Rabbanit Navi, Rabbanit Adi, when I'm lucky enough, Rabbanit Henkin, Rabbanit Racheli, and so Rabbanit Naima, everyone. And it's really Rav Kobe. I'm missing everybody. Once I start, it's like every single person there.
Stars align for you.
It's really just a special place where everybody who's there radiates such a special light and zest and love for teaching. So anyway, I found myself at Nishmat as a student, and I was in the main program, even though I myself at that point was after university. So I was, in a sense, not the typical student, although that happened to be a year where the groups were all mixed. So it worked out, and I was able to learn quite a bit in Hebrew, which was also very helpful for me. And so that was just a wonderful experience of being a student in the Beit Midrash, being able to deepen and just really soak in that environment and question and learn, and it was amazing. I found myself back at Nishmat a couple years later as the coordinator of the summer program. I was working closely alongside Rabbi Navi, and we had the amazing opportunity to work with lots of different women from different age ranges and different backgrounds and different levels of previous learning. And that was just so fun, and also such a great opportunity to learn, because, teachers are, in a sense, it's obviously not selfish, but you learn so much more through being a teacher also. So that for me was an amazing chance to just, see what people are wondering, push my own questions through them, and really be there to, I guess you said, hold hands with people as they were on their learning journey. So that was amazing. And now I, continue to be involved in Nishmat. I did a lot of training to come here actually through Nishmat. So once I knew that we were coming here in November, I would say even prior to that, where it was sort of a glimmer of hope, I was able to seek some mentorship from a lot of the people I had mentioned before at Nishmat, and just sort of question, like, is this the right way to go? Does this make sense? And then to deepen in some learning, because we're living in a place where at this point there's no Eruv, and there's certain considerations that when you're living in this type of environment that you have to study up a little bit, like how to navigate. And then also hashkafically, like, how do I switch now from being in this place where I was sort of I was teaching a bit, but also learning a lot for myself and not transitioning that to a fully giving position. And so Nishmat really provided me that base for preparing for this job, which I'm very grateful for. And I still check in frequently. I have to say, actually, on this call, when I was a student at Nishmat, Rav Sperling said, I think you and your husband would be great on shlichut. You should do it. So if the Rav says it, you have to do it. So he definitely planted the seed for us thinking about something like this. And continues to
You could sense your potential.
Yeah. So, and I'll add one more thing. So my husband and I are here on somewhat of a shlichut. So it's an independent shlichut because we were hired directly for this position through the chief rabbi, Rabbi Sarna. But we are very much here in shlichut, and it was very important for Rabbi Sarna and for us that we would provide a vision of a couple that was a couple, that we were here, we're both working, we're both providing spiritual mentorship to the community. So he's the rabbi for all intensive purposes. He's, we're the rabbinic couple in residence because we live we're resident, we're here, so but it was very important for all of us that we provided what it looks like to be a couple, and a rabbinic couple, that people felt that they had support coming from both a man and a woman. It wasn't necessarily that the title was going to be Rabbanit either. And for me, that was very important that I went by the title Rabbanit, because I think that we're reflecting such a diverse range of Judaism, but we're also modeling a certain version. And as I said, a lot of people haven't experienced that before. And so for me, the title Rabbanit was exactly fitting to what I thought should be demonstrated to people coming from any different space and background. I think the title Rabbanit is very indicative of the person I try to be here. And it also leaves space for a lot of people to have curiosity, which is another great opportunity to teach. So that was intentional, and I'm very glad that has been, well received as the title that I go by here.
So when someone comes to visit and they ask you, "Oh, you're the Rabbanit, what does that mean?" So what do you answer?
It sort of depends on that person's, maybe what their initial concept is in the first place, because I can relate to that through sort of saying, well, it means, yes, a woman who's the rabbi's wife and a woman who is a spiritual mentor to the community and is teaching the community in her own regard. Or sometimes I'll explain to people that is if that makes more sense to go this direction, like it's Rebbitzin in Hebrew. That's sort of an archetype that's represented a lot in Israel by the different institutions where I've spent time learning. I think it also leaves space for some of the groups that we have who are coming in. They'll say like, "Oh, you're in rabbinical school." I'm like, "No, I'm not in rabbinical school. I'm a rabbanit," and so that is a religious, that's a woman who is who within Orthodox Judaism, she is the female of the rabbinic couple and is educating the community. And I'm very great, and oftentimes a good opportunity to put a plug for Nishmat. I've spent a lot of time studying in a very serious capacity.
Thank you.
And so at Nishmat, and actually that comes up quite a bit, to say like that I'm very grateful. I'm still learning, but that a lot of my studies have been in a very deep and meaningful way, and that a lot of the exposure I have had allows women to be learning on the deepest of levels that's fit to what one's ability allows them to dive into. So I have a long way to go, but I think that anyway, I just think that that's a nice title that's been well received here.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about who your role models have been along the way, and who do you look to now?
It's a good question. So I would say, certainly someone like Ebony Hankin, who she really provided some great mentorship in terms of thinking about this job also, and asking questions of, what exactly is going to be. Will people be expecting me to be much more traditional, much more modern, much more this and that? And the answer is yes, all of it. And I think that, she has been, just provides an amazing example of somebody who just lets her, I don't want to speak on her behalf, but I see that she allows her moral compass and like just a sense of really getting feedback from the times and the people who exist within the times, to continue making that next step just very much responsive to what the needs are and what's available, and then just sort of being alert to any situation changes in any direction of movement, and continuing to like always just be so on and put her brains in the right place and utilize her own mental resources to just facilitate growth in a direction that, for me is really wonderful direction. So I would definitely say that. I'm looking a little bit in the background at a photo of Rabbi Sachs, who I think relates a lot to the type of work that's happening here, which is bringing people together. Just really bringing people together, being someone who can elucidate and explain. No one can speak like Rabbi Sachs could speak, but just really always explaining. Every single line he says is educational on some level. He's always bringing up some pedagogical and amazing insight into every small word. And so I think that that's a really admirable quality, and something, God willing, we can strive to do. I do think it's interesting to also mention on the topic of Rabbi Sachs, when we opened, we had Chief Rabbi Mervis here to help inaugurate the synagogue on February 16th. And we are so fortunate that we could stand on his shoulders, really, for sort of that platform of the office of the Chief Rabbi. And so he was here and he spoke so articulately, so beautifully, to open the synagogue. And so I would say we certainly were privileged to have his voice here, his voice echoing really throughout, and also to represent the Jewish community in that capacity. And now you see too, Rabbi Sarna is similarly really carrying that torch to continue lighting up another, just really spread light to this whole region. And again, someone who is just one of these brilliant minds, always, thinking and aware of like the broader picture of what's happening. And people here love him, and so we're very privileged to be able to have his mentorship also, that he kind of brought us onto his team for this experience.
I love that trifecta of your role models. I think you have big shoes to fill, and but I'm pretty confident that over time you guys will grow into it, because you're so perfectly positioned to be that warm, educational, accepting face of the community out there.
Kind of you. Thank you so much. And I'm very privileged to work alongside my husband too. I mean, Ben is really just, I see him every day sort of like growing into fitting the shoes that he needs to here a bit more. And some of the days are just everyday normal rabbinic tasks. We're hosting all of Shabbat and all of just regular synagogue function. And then some of the things that we encounter are much newer and just being, speaking in a certain way. And so I feel very grateful to also walk alongside him, to share in this experience, and also to watch his growth, but ability to really kind of nail it in each moment that comes up. So, thank God. Hopefully
Pretty
that will
accelerated growth if you've only been there since February. It's May.
work. Yeah.
Grow at warp speed. Yeah, before we wrap up, I just want to ask you, what's your message? Like, what do you want to put out there to the world?
I think so. I would say my message is simply, Am Yisrael is stronger together. The Jewish people have enough either enemies or those who are skeptical or critical. And I think that being in a moment like this shows us the power of really pride in our Jewish identity. This infrastructure that I'm fortunate to exist within is really an inspiring story within the Jewish world. And it's a bright spot, a place to feel pride. And like I was mentioning before, we need, we have this amazing synagogue. We have to work it out for ourselves. We have to figure out, how can we be inclusive? How can we also make Judaism and Jewish learning more accessible to people who really want that? So that's a big thing that we do on a daily basis, but just that we're stronger together. We're in waves of sometimes that are smoother, but I think also sometimes that are tougher. And we need each other. There's no independent, there's no option that doesn't include the entire and so that's really what my message is just that we're much stronger together as a Jewish people.
Beautiful. I love it. I feel like the positivity and the energy and the excitement that you're creating over there, I feel it through the computer. It arouses such a curiosity of coming there and experiencing it. So I'm sure that anyone who hears this, I think is going to want to jump on a plane and get over there, come visit you and see it and experience it for themselves. It's incredible. And hopefully one day we'll be blessed with that opportunity. But until then, I just want to, give you a bracha that you be incredibly successful on your journey, and that you impact the lives of the Jews in your community, the Jews all over the world, and then the monotheistic non-Jews that are there with you. Is such an important mission to be on. So thank you for being our ambassador there. From all of the Jewish people, thank you for being ambassador there, and good luck.
Yeah. Amen. Thank you so much. It's really so kind of you, and I hope that we can just continue to represent in the best way, because we're representing something very big and something very, very important. And so we can reflect some of the amazing wisdom of Nishmat and Yer HaKodesh, then we should be so fortunate to bring it over here. So thank you so much. And we're missing everybody. There's always an open invitation here. And
likewise, we miss you. And there's always an open invitation back to the Beit Midrash.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, yeah.
And many blessings back, that it should continue to be an amazing summer of learning, hopefully, especially in the summer program, and that everybody in the Beit Midrash should continue to deepen in their Torah knowledge, and also to everyone that it should be a time of just tremendous bracha, shefa, and that everyone should have a wonderful summer as well.
Thank you. I mean, it's great to speak to you.
Great to speak to you. Thank you so much.